Hello everybody, Daniel formerly from Spacedock here, after a brisk 3.5-year interim. I thought I would wheedle my way in for a little bit of a guest spot, because today happens to be the 12th of January 2026, which if you've been paying attention is the 10th anniversary of Spacedock. Yes, it was 10 years ago that from a university dorm room I uploaded a terrible video about the T-65 X-Wing. Please don't go back and watch it. It is truly an education in how not to do narration. But I must have done something right, because it's gone from strength to strength since then, and if you are a new person who hasn't got a faintest idea who I am, that is probably because of the excellent work, the fantastic work of Joanna, who's been running this channel lately, who has taken it in this brilliant direction with all of these incredibly thoughtful micro-essays on various realistic sci-fi topics and expanded it in ways that I never could have, and of course freed me up to go and work on the SOJOURN audio drama, which is now itself a success, alongside, not to mention the various major properties that myself and other people associated with Spacedock have ended up being able to work on: Star Trek Online, The Expanse, Battlestar Galactica Deadlocked, which I'll talk more about later. All as a result of this channel, and all as a result of you fantastic people supporting it for all of this time. I never would have imagined for a minute that it would have gone half this far, and myself and Hooj and everybody else have got you to thank for it. And before I get into what this video is about, I want to make a particular thanks to our ongoing financial supporters on Patreon, who have become basically critical to the survival of any channel like this on YouTube now, as I'm sure you'll know if you watched the excellent video Hooj did recently along with the Space Carrier about how ad rates on YouTube and the algorithm have essentially dropped to unlivable levels. We really are now only here because of Patreon. The Patreon is what keeps the channel at a high enough level of income to cover its overheads. That simply wouldn't be happening anymore from just ad revenue. So thank you to all of you who are keeping Spacedock alive with your support. And for this little 10th anniversary celebration, I thought that I would do a bit of a kind of awards show for various sci-fi spaceship related things that dropped in 2025. And I will of course make the standard disclaimer here that all of this is just based on things that I've seen. I've not watched the latest season of Foundation. There's a whole bunch of anime that I've not seen. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I imagine people in the audience will think deserves an award, and you're probably right, I just don't know because I haven't seen it. If we do this again next year, we might do a more researched one. Anyway, let's get right into it. Charles, cue the big text on the screen. Okay, this one I'm going to give to the new Cobra Mark V from Elite Dangerous, and you should all get used to a lot of gaming stuff in this list, because gaming kind of took the lion's share of spaceship designs this year, I think, or last year now. We were kind of light on new ship designs in things like Strange New Worlds and TV and such, so there's a lot of gaming ones in this list, and one of the great standouts, I think, is the Cobra Mark V, which has taken the classic Cobra Mark III, which was of course a modernization of the original wireframe designs from the classic Elite, and has swept it back into this dramatic batarang kind of shape, and it looks very Romulan. It looks fast standing still, it's just fierce looking. I think this is pretty much an across-the-board improvement over the Mark III, which was already fine, but I've never been a huge fan of ships that have a completely flat aft section, and I think the slight paring back of the wings here fixes a lot of the more boring aspects of the Mark III. And this ship comes along with a sort of renaissance in Elite Dangerous, as after quite a number of years of pretty much total stagnancy in the game, suddenly in the last 2 years it seems to be adding content hand over fist. There's been more ships added in a year than there have been in the last 4 years combined. A load of great new gameplay content, and a lot more to come, I think. I've been replaying it in the last couple of weeks for the first time since, I think, 2018, and been amazed by just how refined everything is now and how much has been added to it. And most of my experience of the new content in Elite has been seen through the cockpit of the Cobra Mark V, which I'm finding really satisfying to fly. It's pretty much as maneuverable and nimble as the Vulture, while also being able to do more multi-role stuff, and allows you to sort of experience more of what the game has to offer without having to constantly switch ships, which I think is a part of the big quality of life push that the game has made lately. Very cool looking ship, very fun to fly, and well deserving of the best evolution of a classic design, I would say. Okay, next up, it's the TIE Avenger from Andor Season 2. A much beloved Legends design that was obviously from a later period in the timeline in Legends. It was to do with Grand Admiral Zarin and stuff, and it showed up towards the end of the Galactic Civil War rather than the start. But it has been lovingly adapted here in Andor, given this fascinating slew of different kinds of weapons that we get to see used in the brief sequence it's in. Depicted with phenomenal sound design, it just sounds fantastic as it's zipping around the place. And I think changed in only small ways to modernise and make it look good for a new show, without really taking too much away from its original design style from Legends. Just a very good adaptation overall. And that's done with, so now holy shit, Andor. I swear to God, if I had been on this channel for the last however many years, it would have been driven into the ground by the fact that every single video would have just been me glazing Andor. What happened there? That's the best sci-fi show in 25 years, and it came out of nowhere. A Star Wars Disney Plus spin-off TV show about Cassian Andor, and it was that? That's all the lightning in all the bottles. Oh my god, it was so good. I think maybe it must have just sort of slipped through corporate studio overlook precisely because it seemed like a fairly D-list sideshow, and that allowed it to be this incredibly searing political drama, this brilliantly thematically charged series. So pertinent, so masterfully executed at every turn, and just the last thing anybody would ever have expected from Star Wars. The idea that in early 2025 we would all be gripped to our screens by Mon Mothma of all people having a giant crash out at a space rave. There's just far too much good to say about Andor than I could possibly fit into one section or into one video. I'm sure you've all seen it. You're crazy not to have seen it if you haven't. Remedy this immediately. I think it might genuinely be in the top 2 or 3 pieces of Star Wars media of all time, where it's only really got Knights of the Old Republic 2 to meaningfully compete with. I never thought we'd get anything on that level of quality, on that level of dramatic excellence and narrative complexity from the new canon Star Wars content. That's not really me throwing shade at the new canon. I find a lot of it very entertaining, but it is generally made to be more accessible and mainstream. Most of the more experimental content comes when large IPs are in downturns and don't need to appeal to mainstream audiences. That's kind of when we got stuff like the Thrawn novels and things. But to have got something operating on this level now was the last thing I could ever have predicted, and it's incredible. If this video had a general contributions to the science fiction genre award, it would be going straight to Andor. And for this one, I'm going to briefly hand you back to Hooj, who would like to take this opportunity to talk about Sad Frontier.
Hello, it's me, another British voice here to confuse and hopefully amaze you with this tiny little indie project on YouTube that is just utterly fantastic. Not only does it absolutely smash it out of the park with realistic designs packed to the brim with radiators and electronic warfare and so many other little details, but it's also oozing with style. This is what I'm going on about with using realism for inspiration. You don't need to be slavish about ensuring everything is exactly perfectly physically correct if you don't want to. You can just invest a bit of time into looking at things from the perspective of realism to end up building something amazing. And it's not just the ship designs and combat that stand out, it's the other stuff too. You can't really appreciate the editing and music and sound design here, so I do very strongly recommend you go directly watch the Sad Frontier videos on their own channel. They're all their own things telling this overall story arc, with the latest being an awesome briefing for what's to come next, kind of like the ones from Ace Combat. So I'm very happy to give this award for, sick-ass style using realism, I guess? Back to Daniel.
Another gaming one now, this time for the No Man's Sky Corvettes expansion. Not specifically a spaceship, but a whole lot of spaceships. Probably the best expansion the game has added, and you'd be forgiven for losing some of them in the mix because they seem to add a massive free expansion to this game every 2 weeks. They need to stop. The poor people need to stop. Please take some money off us. We forgive you for the whole launch situation. But honestly, you would be hard-pressed to find better post-release support for anything, a better, or indeed more inspiring effort to redeem oneself and provide quality content to a supportive audience over many years than what we've seen from Hello Games, and it's reached a big peak here with this Corvettes expansion. It's been a big contested point of space sims and space games for a long time to have live ship interiors during space action. Though I will remind everyone that we did have it in 2005 with Star Wars Galaxies, which is often forgotten about. But either way, it has kind of taken on the aura of this nigh unreachable technical feat that things like Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous have been fighting to achieve, and it is very on brand for No Man's Sky to have just casually added it in a free update. One of the things I love most in space games, in any game really, is immersion. And so much of that is added from just the simple fact of being able to just stand behind the seat and look outwards as it is autopiloted or piloted by somebody else elsewhere. I love being able to do that in X4 Foundations. Even if there's not a great deal of feature content to the interiors of the ships, just that immersive experience of being able to wander around them while they're in motion adds so much to a gaming experience. And there really is no shortage of actual content in the No Man's Sky expansion either. They've got the nice in-ship mission boards, which are very helpful. The customization system is very elaborate, and people have used it to make all kinds of incredible things. It essentially takes the sort of style Starfield was going for, and builds it out in a much more interactable way, and it comes with a bunch of quality of life improvements because you can do things like hover a Corvette over a planet and then teleport up and down to and from it, so you don't have to use the fuel-consuming landing thrusters too much. It's a change that is impressive technically, but also elegant in its simplicity, because just this one framework change has done so much to change how all of the existing content of No Man's Sky feels to enjoy, as you feel so much more a part of the inside of your ship, a part of the world. Just a huge advantage to immersion. Now this Extreme Professional Tolerance Award I would like to personally present to Captain Varel of the USS Farragut in Strange New Worlds Season 3 for consistently and quietly putting up with the fact that the flagship of the Federation keeps directly phoning her first officer in his quarters to invite him on various space adventures, and having him go up to the bridge and give her her marching orders as if she's just his taxi driver. Incredible forbearance by a Starfleet captain here. I'd be a bit miffed, can't lie. After all, he's not Captain Kirk yet, he's just some bloke. I can only assume she is diligently applying the full strength of her Vulcan discipline to endure this strange and obvious favoritism directed towards her junior officer. Well done, Captain Varel. I'm rooting for you. Okay, tonal shift to a much more serious one now. Before I give you our best spaceship of 2025, I want to take a minute to acknowledge all of the phenomenal people who I worked with on Battlestar Galactica Deadlock way back in the day. You may remember a long time ago that Spacedock collaborated on the lore development of the ships for the game way back when it was being released. And very sadly, as I'm sure some of you might have seen from our community posts, the game was delisted from all storefronts this year, only a few weeks ago, for reasons that remain unclear. I think we can probably theorize that it's some kind of rights situation related to NBC, possibly because there may be new Battlestar shows on the horizon that might be rewriting or redepicting the First Cylon War, who knows. Either way, I think it's horrendous to ever see anything fully delisted like that. I think we are in a uniquely disastrous time for that kind of thing, that media can be fully made unavailable if you haven't grabbed it in time. Physical media is so rare now, and the ubiquity of DRM content and the fact that anybody can, for any trumped-up reason, just delete it from existence is a huge threat to the integrity of art that I think must be fought at every possible turn. And it was tragic to see something that so many people poured so much work into delisted. So among a great many others, I would give a shout out to Alan Blackwell and Anthony Carriero and everybody else who worked on the ship designs for the game. I personally think that they're the best expansion upon the art style of 2003 Battlestar that's ever been achieved. Incredibly authentic additions to the design style of the Colonial Fleet. Every one of them fantastic, but I will give a specific shout out to the Adamant Frigate, which I think is probably the best example from that game, and easily one of the best design contributions to the RDM Battlestar world ever made. Deeply sad to see it go, especially since it was a part of Spacedock history as well. It was my foot in the door for major IP work. It was also the means by which, you may remember from a very old video, Spacedock lobbied for there to finally be a credit given to Todd Boyce, the designer of the Defender class from Battlestar, the 3D model of which had been bandied around multiple shows and never given proper credit for years. It was finally given its credit to the man in this game, which you now can't get anymore, which is just an unfortunate turnaround, really. A great game, a great contribution to the Battlestar IP, an important chapter in Spacedock history, and a very sad thing to see made so difficult to attain. So even though the game itself did not come out in 2025 and merely met this misfortune in 2025, I would still like to award it the Best Expansion on a Heritage Sci-Fi Art Style award. And finally, for the 2025 Spaceship of the Year, I'm going to give it to the Daetra-class Warbird from Star Trek Online, designed by the fantastic Scorp, who I have been lucky enough to work with before on SOJOURN, where they produced the Alessia-class fast frigate for us, which is one of my favourite designs that we've had produced for SOJOURN. But this is no idle favouritism, as I do think this is genuinely one of the best designs ever to be added to Star Trek Online, a game full of great designs. It's in pretty august company. But the one thing this ship does that nothing else has really done before is it takes the Lost Era style, the TMP style, and explores how it might have looked on Romulan ships, something we never got to see, and it finds this fantastic middle ground between the TOS vibes, the Lost Era, Ambassador kind of era designs, and other elements from the TMP style. It retains the TOS painted wings motif, taken from older Romulan ships on the ventral hull. It has this fantastic splayed aft frame that kind of creates a sort of feathers motif, while generally overall maintaining the smooth, slick Constitution refit style, motion picture design vibe that everybody loves. Find me a person who is not enamored with that style. Fantastic work, Scorp, on this and also various other designs you've contributed to STO. I particularly enjoyed seeing the Proxima class from Star Trek Legacy adapted recently. I've always liked that design. And well done to Star Trek Online in general for giving such opportunities to these fantastic up-and-coming 3D ship designers, ultimately giving us great stuff like this Daetra class Warbird. Well done, Scorp. And that's your lot. Those were the very slapdash 2025 Spaceship Awards. If this is something you all vibed with, we may well return next year with something more structured and thought out, and I could genuinely give something like that Contributions to the Sci-Fi Genre Award. Hopefully we'll actually get more spaceships in 2026, because there was a bit of a dearth of them this year. I'd love to see some new things come out of Strange New Worlds to talk about, and maybe we'll get Ahsoka Season 2 with some ship designs and such. But in the meantime, thank you all again for 10 years of support on this channel, a job I never dreamed I'd be able to do, and I couldn't be prouder of how it's evolved under the Hooge era, and in all of the support that I've seen you giving to Hooge through this new era. I can't lie that 2025 was a difficult one for us financially, but there is more to come, and you can expect much more great stuff from Spacedock, and from me over on the SOJOURN channel, all through 2026. And if there's demand, I may make a couple more guest appearances through the year. I might be doing some kind of collaborations with Rowan J. Coleman quite soon, so you can keep your eyes out. I am around, and you can always find Hooge here. I hope you all had a fantastic holidays, and I hope you will all have a fantastic 2026. So for the first time in a long while, this is Daniel from Spacedock, signing off.
You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate, fighter and carrier design reference books, as well as 1 week early access to upcoming videos. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.